All right. So listen, I feel like um I know we talked before there was a decision for the play to come to the Blue Barn, and absolutely before there was a decision for me to be involved in the play. I don't remember if in that conversation I said how I came to know of your work and who you are, right? So I am Dominique Morgan. I am the executive director of Black and Pink National. I also believe and live wholeheartedly in the power of arts and advocacy and mission movement and changing the world. This is the Lady Dane. And so I'm giving y'all like me, but I'm going to introduce her to give her her roses, and then she's going to introduce like the things that I don't add because it's just going to be a whole bunch of gushy Pisces stuff that I leave with.
You are so sweet.
No, I I was on YouTube and I was watching some work that you had done, and I sent this was I believe this was like when the second season of Pole started, so this was like a year and a half ago.
Oh wow!
And I
Yeah.
sent it to some friends, and I was just like, this woman is sickening. And I had started following you on social media and just really moved. And then when the Blue Barn reached out to me and they're like explaining me, they're explaining to me who you are. And I'm just like, okay, girl, go ahead, keep explaining. But I already know how iconic this person is. Oh, y'all should connect. In the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I already like stalk her on Instagram. It's fine. Because there is, in my role at Black and Pink, there is sometimes a struggle for me to engage in my art in the way that I know that my art can activate social change. And there's something very incredible about you and folks who give of themselves through art in totality in like these extraordinary ways to activate social change. So you are a social change activist. You are a iconic artist. You are a wordsmith, if there ever was one. And you're an innovator in so many ways. So I just wanted to thank you for that, for my little, Black trans self being here in Nebraska to be able to have that, to be able to touch that and experience it. It's really powerful. And now we're here having a conversation about how our work, almost 2 years later, having a conversation about how our work is now intersecting, and I hope we'll continue to amplify each other. So that is my introduction on who this queen is. Sis, what did I miss so the people can fill in the spaces I might have
Oh
missed?
my goodness. I love you so much. Hey everybody, I'm Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a Black, Cuban, Nigerian, indigenous, trans woman. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, Baltimore.
Me more in the house.
Yeah, indeed.
And I'm now residing in Piscataway People's Lands, Washington, D.C. I am a playwright, an author, a performance artist, an advocate. I'm the co-director of the Black Trans Prayer Book, and that's like a little bit of like the things that I do. So you know what, you are so sweet because I feel like the vice versa happened, right? Like I was like, oh wait, because we have a mutual family member, Louie.
Yes.
Before we like knew each other in this lifetime, right? And I was like, hold on. I said, Louis is gushing over her. I said, hold on, let me look her up. And then I saw that you sang, and you can sing down, honey. Okay, sing down. Everybody get her album. It is out. It came out in December 2020. That's so funny because we were in rehearsal and I was like, she got a whole album, y'all. And
Listen,
everybody got your album.
I'm not trying to take up space. They're like, oh, y'all are singing. I'll be like, okay. Like I'm stressed about acting again because it's been like 10 years. But if I gotta sing something, I might be all right with that part. And Sis was like, nah, Dominique about to sing this stuff. I don't know why Dominique playing. I'm like, okay, fam. Whatever you need, I got it. Say less.
But that was one of the things that made me like super, super excited for you to be a part of this piece because when I think about For Black Trans Girls, it is a literary daughter of For Color Girls. And so they sang, they danced. And I remember I was on a panel with Ifa Baeza and Miss Diane. I forget Miss Diane's last name, and they were talking about how Saki wanted everybody to sing, dance, act like you had to do all three of the things, right? And so I remember like one of the things that was like really, really exciting about having you come and be a part of the cast was that like I knew that you could sing down, and I knew that like you could shift worlds with your voice. And so I was like, yes, 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 yes. I said, this play requires some girls who can sing down, honey. And so yeah, so it's when I saw that you were connected to Louis, and then I looked you up and I was like, oh, she's doing some amazing work and she's an artist. And I was like, come on through, honey. So like when I knew that your album was coming out last year, of course I was like, let me go on and get that thing. Let me go on and get that thing. But I am, like we were already in community. We're all, we are sisters. But it was great that like this experience has taught me how I don't want to say how small the world is, because the world is actually very vast and big.
Right.
But how so many of us are like, our names are in rooms
Mm-hmm.
that we may not even know that our names are in.
Yeah.
And so just as like Blue Barn was having a conversation with you about me and about this piece, the minute that, our first meeting with Blue Barn was mentioning you, right? And I was like, I know her. I was like, I already know her.
Y'all should connect. I'm like, we be following the social medias. Like it's a thing. I think it's like in that space of the world is vast. I think what I've recognized not only through this process, right, of like creating a deeper connection to you, but meeting Paige, meeting the other Black trans women who are in this beautiful piece that you created. But what I've realized in like the last 3 years of me being more unbound as a person with that navigates the world with oppressed identities, right? I'm like, and unbound is starting to become like a synonym for like privilege and access for me, because I think people misconstrue when I say that. But being able to connect to people, I recognize that community exists. The
Mhm.
primacy and these barriers try to keep us from community. So like
Yeah.
the world is huge. That means that there's huge opportunities for us to build community. But this idea of me being in Nebraska or you in DC, or that I do activism in people's perspective of like my work is for a 501c3 only, and you're creating these beautiful pieces that they try to take away the inherent ways that we're connected, not only as people,
Mhm.
but in like this journey to freedom.
Right,
And
right.
and I had that aha yesterday at rehearsal, when there's a part when we all have to say power back to back to back.
Yeah.
And Lady Dane was like, listen, like y'all gotta build on each other. You know what I'm saying? And it was a moment where that simple direction to be better in the play was a realization of what it's like to be in the world and be in community.
Right.
Me saying power, and if I'm saying power right, if I'm doing power right, the next person just gets to build on it.
Right.
And so that was exciting. So this for me, this experience, this moment, whatever comes after this is about building on the power of what people have brought to us before. And what I really want folks to hear about, how did we get here with this piece you created? Because you always give homage that it is a child of this initial piece of art. As someone who's seen both pieces, whether it's been on the stage or and I've seen the movie For Color Girls, it is vastly different in a lot of ways as well. It does not feel like a adaptation in
Right.
any sort of simple form. So how did you get us here with this project?
Yeah. So, as I think about For Color Girls, I may have said this in rehearsal, but I'm not sure if I did. But like we could name on our hands, right, how many Black trans women were actually a part of a production of For Color Girls. I'm not talking about a reading. I'm not talking about excerpts. I'm talking about a production at a theater. I know for myself, growing up, For Color Girls was one of those pieces, and I'm sure for you too, because you Black. For Color Girl was one of those pieces where like you it was studied in schools, right? It was like it revolutionized the ways in which Western audiences thought about theater. Um, it itself built on the foundation of ancestor work. It itself is ritual work. Um, we know, I feel like For Color Girls kept a lot of Black women employed.
Hello.
I think that we talk a lot about like, diversity, inclusion now, but it was like, our Black elders, our Black ancestors were having these arguments and these fights, and working to tear down, structural oppression, for hundreds of years. And I remember I felt like For Color Girls really, really, really kept a lot of folks employed as well. And so with all of that said, Nina Simone says art must reflect the time. For me, part of that conversation is about the fact that like art is made within a time, even when it's timeless.
Oh.
And so I feel like for myself, ever since I was young, I was like, you know what? I want to write a choreo poem. And I think that part of the foundation of that choreo poem work was for Color Girls. And my piece Clytemnestra, an epic slam poem, it was like my first world premiere at Theater Alliance here in DC. Theater Alliance also did the first reading of For Black Trans Girls like years ago, child. But Clytemnestra was my one woman choreo poem, taking the story of Clytemnestra, putting it into the life of Black women. And I said, okay, 2016 happened, and we all know what happened in 2016. I think that everybody thought that Hillary was going to win. And I witnessed a lot of nonprofit organizations scrambling to live in a world where the president was a different person than who they thought was going to win. And I had previously been like, okay, I'm going to write this choreo poem. It's going to be called X, Y, and Z, but I didn't write it yet. So I had the title, I had the idea for the cover of the poetry book. I knew, that it was a literary daughter For Color Girls, but I didn't really like write it yet because I was writing a whole bunch of other books too. And so then 2016 happened, and I heard folks say that they didn't see this coming. And I remember that so many Black and Indigenous and brown trans women had been screaming at the top of our lungs that like white supremacy is the issue. It is the thing that we must dismantle if we really, really, really want a world that is that is free, right? That is truly free from oppression. And how oftentimes, our sisters and us, right, we're told, be grateful. It goes slow, it takes time, etc. And I said, and now look what happened. And now look what happened. And the country has not recovered from those 4 years. Like there are over 500,000 people dead because of the decision, the mismanagement, the selfishness, the evilness of the last administration, and also the colonist history of this country that so many United States citizens refuse, and let me be clear, so many white United States citizens refuse to reckon with. And I said, okay, I'm gonna write this piece because that's how I feel. So the piece, you know, for Black trans girls, who gotta snatch an edge, right? When who gotta cuss a motherfucker out when snatching edge ain't enough. And part of it is because like we know that like snatching an edge is cute, right? Like it's a cute read. It's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna read you. And it might hurt your feelings, but you're gonna be able to recover.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, it's like we try to be nice. We try to be, you know, how about you try this way? How about you try this way? And um, sometimes you got to cuss a motherfucker out for them to get it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like what kind of like spurred on like me being like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and write it. I had already written a history lesson because I was performing that for like a year with one of my favorite collaborators, J Mace the Third. He's an amazing
Love J Mace. Love
yeah,
it.
he
I
is
met
so
him at
amazing.
Creating Change in Chicago in 2016.
Yeah, yeah.
And I they did a session on art and activism, and they had us in the smallest room in that ballroom, like in that entire hotel. And J May's just incredible. But yes, J May's all the things. Sorry,
And
go ahead.
he's the co-director of the Black Trans Prayer Book. And so like we were doing these poetic conversations, which essentially like is, you know, so many artists in the past, they would write poems to each other as a means of like communicating, right? And history lesson was one of those things that came out of that. So that was actually the first piece, I believe, that in Of Bodies, like a version of Bodies that was like written before I actually like sat down and wrote the rest. Then I sat down, I wrote the rest. And it all, you know, it all is about, a lot of it is my own life experience. So like, so you got to watch the play. You know, I talk about my aunt Jimmy. Like that's, you know, she is my real aunt. And then some of it was like experiences that were imagined. So for example, Man of War, there was the trans-military ban that was happening. And I thought about this country and how this country treats trans people, how this country treats Black and Indigenous people. And I said, and then I watched our trans siblings fighting so hard to be a part of the military. And I get it. I get why, right? Like I get why because of class, because of, I get all of those things, protections, etc. But I was like, I'm gonna write this piece called Man of War. And then actually a late addition to the play, the stage version of it, is Sisterhood of Silence. That comes from another book of mine called The Blood of a Thousand Roots. And, you know, yeah. And so you know, as we were working on the second reading at Woolley, I said to Paige, I said, you know, I think the Sisterhood of Silence has to go here after Peaches's piece. And I said, I think that that gets us to Of Bodies. And so that's, you know, it's, you know, some of them are stories of mine. Some of them are imagined stories. Some are, like, of course, when you kiki in with the girls, right? And you're like,
Well, I think that's the power of. So I've never like. So I'm embarking on this book journey of like more of my story, but like my story put together with stories, not a life story. I'm like, I'm just 39, child. I don't like playing with juju like that, talking about this is my biopic, girl. Let me, you know, I got things to do. But as a songwriter, I can completely understand what you're saying, where there will be a whole verse that will be specifically about me, about some stuff that I did or I've experienced. And then I've been on a plane listening to somebody cussing out somebody else, and you'd be like, girl, really? You gave that? And I am the queen of Apple Notes. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna put this as so many of my songs start as titles. My album Pisces in E flat major was like 5 different albums before. And then the pandemic hit at the, you know, this new pandemic hit at the top of March of last year. And then I started my social and medical transition at the same time. So yesterday was a year of me taking estrogen and engaging in HRT, like 1 year of that. And then I wrote pretty much the second half of the Pisces album in that time. And I think the power of art in this movement is that it's inherently built for multiple stories, multiple people to live in, right? Like this idea of, I feel like many approaches to advocacy we gonna march to advocacy, we gonna dismantle. It's theory that someone has developed. Some people will add or adapt it in over time, but usually we're just trying to get better at this approach to advocacy. The thing I love about art is that, like the words you've written, this could go anywhere. And yes, that's the foundation, but all these different people get to live in it. And I love that about song too, right? Where even when I'm frustrated, when I see somebody take a Whitney Houston song and turn it into a rock song, I'm like, Whitney Elizabeth deserves better. But you know what? At the same time, I'm glad you found something in that spoke to you, that made you want to create something that's going to speak to someone else. So when we talk about kind of being storytellers, and when we think about the impact of story and in social change, right? People are like, what is our role in community? And I struggle sometimes with someone like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, how long do you have? But I think I always come back to storyteller and healer is something that I can narrow down to. When we think about who you are in community, what would you, if someone asked you that, what would you say? And how could someone who wants to be able to look at and understand how that manifests in community, what would they be able to look at to recognize that manifestation of who you are in our community's movement forward?
Yeah, I think that I am a healer priestess, and I have been gifted with art as a means to, heal myself, heal the world, combat oppression, transform, transform the world. And so, yeah, I think that ultimately, like, beyond beyond any other words I could use, right, is that, like, I am someone who understands that trans people are divine, and that we have inherited a deep and powerful and visceral legacy, a spiritual legacy, and that our presence, that we are walking miracles. We are walking manifestations of the transformative power of divinity. We are walking manifestations of what it means to love in a way that is I used this word in another interview, but I'll use it now because that's the word that's coming to me, relentless. It is, in order for us to truly, truly, truly begin to deepen our relationships with ourselves, that rooted love, that love that goes beyond, right, beyond words and comprehension. We have to be in relationship with that love. And I, and this is not me saying you gotta love yourself before, that's not me. That's not me.
Yeah.
The white woman, ooh, new age. That's not me saying that. But what I am saying is that, like, I think that thing that has us hold on, it is so deep and ancestral, and so beyond, that the words to even name it, the only word that can come up for me is love.
Well, I think it is a truth that they amplify each other, though, right? I think they make each other greater, like this self-love, this community-based love, the love of, and sometimes the fear and stress of your purpose, right? So many times when I see folks struggling, I'm like, it's not because they aren't, as great as we think they should be. It's because they feel the weight of their greatness on them, and it just feels too much. And for me, that doesn't mean that they can't do it. It means there's not enough of us around them helping them lift that weight, right? Like, I think those of us who are seen as the best of us, people see us, and I say this all the time, what you see Dominique Morgan accomplish in a day, whether it's Black and Pink, whether it's my art or otherwise, it's because I have a team at National that's killing work all day. I got a personal assistant. My sister's gonna come over and help me pack, because girl, I'm gonna forget these wigs for this photo shoot, because I of course booked the photo shoot 5 minutes before my flight to DC. Like, that's my life. And so and those are just like, examples of like people in roles, but I feel like community is a role. Community is a role. I feel like my participation in this play is me as community, of course, benefiting from being a part of it. But the thing that excites me is that I get to support this Black trans woman in her art coming to life. And I hope I'm doing it justice. Like, there's a reciprocity there. There's like all of these truths living at once. And one of the things they wanted us to talk about, and we don't have much time left, but I think that gets us to mutual aid and the purpose of it and the power of it. And many folks, I believe, frame mutual aid in a sense of, there's a GoFundMe process or some, a pantry, which are viable, real things. But I think in this time, it's important to talk about mutual aid in an energy, in a emotional, in a love, in a solidarity sense. And what does that look like? And how can we make sure that we're showing up the way we want to show up and having the effect we want to have when it comes to showing up and engaging in mutual aid that may not feel as tangible as people are used to engaging in mutual aid? You feel me?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that, when I talk about mutual aid often, of course, there are times when I talk about mutual aid and I'm talking specifically to cisgendered and or white folks and or rich folks, right? And then there are times when I'm speaking directly to folks like us, right? And I think that, and the reason why I make I make the distinction is because we understand the ways in which we understand how structural oppression operates. So that's number one. Number two, I think that, like, if you are, for example, like a Black trans person who may not necessarily have a lot of money, right? But you want to be able to like be there for your community. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, how are you being there for yourself?
Yes.
First, like, how are you actually like showing up for yourself? And are there needs that you have that need to be met, right? And that the community actually needs to like rally around you so that you could be able to show up for yourself in the ways that you need to. And so that's kind of like, the way you structured the question, that's kind of like the thing that came up for me. I think that, and in other ways, I think that I think if you are white and you are cis, and particularly if you're a white and cis and you got coin, you need to be giving up coin. You need to be, you need to be giving up access. You need to be, all of those types of things. I also just want to say, as I think about community and I think about its role, is that, our ancestors, our elders, us, like, we understand that like community is a vital part of not just survival, but also thriving in very many ways. And that just like you said when you were talking about like your team, right? I often tell folks, particularly those who are Black and Indigenous and trans, I say, get you some folks around you who are invested in not just your survival, but your thriving. Like, get you some folks like that, get you some friends like that, get you some family of choice like that. Because we matter.
Absolutely.
We matter.
And I think there is so much power in people who are so much like you, seeing the power in your dream, and wanting to invest in that dream in a way that it almost feels like it's their own dream, but they know it's not theirs, but they love you so much, it kind of feels like theirs. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's power in that. And as someone who's benefited from people showing up for me that way behind my dreams, it forces you to go harder, right? Because you're just like, well, honey, I'm not about to play with these people's time. I'm not about to play with these people's love and affection and intention. And so it's a reciprocity of like, you know, really pushing you to go harder. I think being born and raised in Omaha, we have so much affluence here and we have so much access in spaces of white folks, white queer folks who are cisgender, white trans people who are in our community here. Like this space of whiteness in Omaha and Nebraska is rich with opportunity when it comes to access. I think people need to recognize and ask themselves, who are very afraid or who are concerned about someone taking their privilege, why do you have to, why are you holding on to something so tight that you have to have it taken from you? Why can you not look at what you have to think about the areas where you can relinquish it? Or again, like repurpose it. There's power in that. And so what I hope happens from this art piece and from people viewing it, watching this interview, engaging with you in your social media and in the other work that you're doing, and what I hope to see arts do in our city. I've was a part of the Omaha Entertainment Arts Award Board for years. I was I think I was the only Black president they ever had, vice president. And we pushed in so many categories.
I also heard you be slaying the awards, honey.
First of all,
a little birdie told me.
The truth tea is, girl, I was the Susan Lucci of the OEAs for a hot minute, girl. It was about 20 nominations. And then they was giving it to me back to back. And I'm like, girl, and I've won in the performance art. And I told Barry Carmen at the Blue Barn, I'm like, listen, so you know this is your opportunity to make me like Omaha's version of the EGOT, because I haven't won anything in the performance art place. But art is important to me. And so I hope that folks engaging in your beautiful work will recognize the power that art has in shifting the culture here in my city. You have people like Bofill Berry, who are actress and writer and director, Brandy Smith, Anthony, there's Catherine McCombs. There's great people doing work here. But how can these beautiful institutions like the Blue Barn invest in that work financially, invest in engaging them with folks like yourself who are doing incredible work nationally and globally? And how can we affirm consistently the power of the arts in social change? And so we have to be dedicated to that. We are not post-COVID. And if you think you're post-COVID, I will show you 4 or 5 pandemics we're not post, if that's what it takes to engage you. And do not lose the power of art in that process.
Yeah, I think about kind of, where I started, right? As I talked about employment, right? I talked about how this piece would employ Black trans women. I one of my dreams, I'll name it in this interview, is that there'd be multiple productions and/or multiple readings happening at one point or time, at whatever point in time, where there are multiple Black trans women being employed to do this show around the country. And because I understand like what that means, I think that I've been thinking a lot about, I watched The View. And, somebody on The View said something that was really offensive yesterday. But I think about, there is this myth of the qualified white man. And when I'm in these meetings, a lot of times I am hearing folks say, oh, well, where are the girls? Where are the talented girls? Where are the talented, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? And so I say, okay, well, you could ask, where are they? And then you could ask yourself, what are you doing to make sure that Black trans women are actually getting like access to the education and the skill building type of work that you want them to have when they come and audition for your show? So one thing I did with Long Wolf Theater, and that's a whole podcast on its own, but like, I co-produce and I co-curate Black trans women at the center. And part of it was about connecting Black trans women to an institution that like won a Tony, right? Like, and that's an annual event. And I think that like the art itself, like we understand that art is also before the idea of commercial art became a thing, art was spiritual, and art continues to be spiritual. So it's hard to separate art from being at the forefront for social change. It's hard to separate art from its responsibility to the community. It's hard to separate art from its responsibility to ourselves. And so I say all those things to say the power of art is great. And so the question is, how are we leveraging our access? How are we leveraging our positionality in order to make sure that the room is filled with our sisters? When you talk about that holding on for so tight, right? It's like one thing that we learn in community, right, is that there is actually more than enough for everybody. And so even as
is community then mutual aid, sis? like the existence of community? Like, is it not a root? Is it? I had a moment like, if you recognize that abundance exists through community experiences, isn't that aha like a gift and also mutual aid that somebody else is giving to you? Okay, I'm gonna have to.
I was like, we might have to sit with it, because I was like, hold on now, I gotta think about that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to sit on that. That blessed me. That blessed me. That blessed me. These theories, these terms that we're using may feel very large to some people, or feel like, I don't know what this means. We're talking about centering people in people. No matter what you're doing, center people, center their needs, understand the deficits so you can support them on offsetting them, and position them to touch whatever piece of greatness that they desire. Like that. And I think that is boiled down as simple as we need to make it for people to be able to digest. I'm gonna put these things in the atmosphere. One, I would love for us to figure out how we could do a version of this, like have a performance of this inside of a prison, where we have Black trans women who are always writing us about the art that they're passionate about. That's a long-term thing. And that's just a conversation. And for the folks who are like, oh, you're an abolitionist. Yes, I want to tear down the prison, but I also want my people to be nourished and experience lovely things until the last brick is gone. And the other thing is figuring out how we can get some of your words in a Black and Pink newsletter. It goes inside to 20,000 incarcerated people across the country. And a bulk of them trans people who will historically, depending on that prison sentence, never see themselves in art unless it's death or unless it's harm. And that's the power of community. That's the power of collaboration, right? Is that whatever we voice gets to be amplified. So I speak those things to life, and I thank you for your existence. I thank you for your work. I thank you for your transparency. Me being Peaches in this piece and reading parts of your story to you and to other people is a gift. You are a gift. Y'all, come see this piece. Omaha people, come see this work. Do not be the person that's like, oh, is it recorded? No, girl, get there. Beat us there, and we're in the piece. So y'all make sure y'all engage, because there are opportunities you miss and you're just like, doggone it, like I really just messed it up for myself. And this will be one of those things. If you care about art, if you care about Black folks, you care about Black trans people, if you care about a universal experience of thriving and flourishing, art is a component. And this is one of those pieces of art that will push us to where we say we want to be and who we say we are. So thank you to the Blue Barn and the entire team at the Blue Barn, specifically Barry, for holding us all together and pushing this forward.
I want to say thank you, because I know that you're busy, right? I know you're busy, because I remember when we had a conversation, I just was like, girl, now these are the dates that you're going to be able to do. You was like, yes, girl, I'm able to do. I said, okay, girl. But I feel like, thank you for saying yes, because I also understand your positionality in the community there in Omaha, specifically in the LGBTQ community, particularly in the Black trans community. And so also thank you. Thank you for saying yes when you got the call, because you didn't have to.
Well, thank you. This is blessing me. I have not done a play since 2010 with the John Beasley Theater, since The Wiz. And it's always been like, oh, I want to come back. And so for me, this is a gift. This is a universe saying, you couldn't come back because the right thing wasn't there for you to come back, and you weren't ready to come back in that right thing. And you're where you're meant to be in multiple levels. So this piece is an affirmation of my life and where it's at and where I'm going. So I'm appreciative. Y'all make sure y'all plug in. Y'all make sure y'all support. Follow Lady Dane on all the social media platforms, and somebody behind the scenes is going to put it in the link or in a bio or in the description. You'll get the things, and we'll see you all at the play, at the performance on Transgender Day of Visibility. Right? It's not just about remembering us once we're gone. It's about really be excited that we are visible and we are here. And so March 31st is an incredible opportunity to start with March 31st, and then let that be 364 more days after that. Amen.
Oh, yeah.
All right now. Thank y'all so much. I'm Dominique Morgan. I'm the executive director of Black and Pink National, and I am and a lifetime Omahan, and I'm proud to say that this is going to be some amazing work. Thank you all, and we will see you all at the performance.
Thank y'all.